my calculations are correct, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious
It has begun!
Calm down, Doctor. Now is not the time for fear.
Trying to misbehave.
Give them nothing, but take from them everything!
Program complete. Enter when ready.
Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome to Geek News Reviews and Opinions, the podcast where we go over the month's events in Geek. I'm your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drac. I hope everybody is having an awesome day or night when you're listening to this. And joining me tonight is my usual panel of fellow geeks, fellow YouTubers, fellow content creators, fellow awesome guys in general. And joining me is Brenton Volley. Brenton, how are you doing these mad months of October and November?
I've been tired.
Mm-hmm. No, I got it.
But I mean, at this point, it's more like emotionally,
yeah,
I'm tired.
Yeah, I'm just more in the physical brand because of the 10-hour shifts that I now need to do for the new job, which is why a lot of these podcasts are going to come out delayed. Also joining us tonight is Alex the Shadow Blazer, who once again has decided to change his hair color and his overall lolly appearance. Alex, how are you?
Yes, if you haven't figured out by now, Adam, I change my avatar every month to keep it interesting.
I didn't actually know the month part.
Yeah,
I just figured you got bored and then just changed it.
I always like changing it up every month because it's just fun.
All right, so Drac learned something new today. That's awesome. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get into so technically this is the events of October 2022. But I'm just going to go ahead and warn people in advance. I don't know how the holiday months are going to go just because of my job and everything like that. So if there are any major stories, then maybe I'll have to cover them on my own. I don't know. We'll figure this stuff out. And then I also do know that some people are reaching out because if people don't remember the previous podcast, I had to have Rising Sun and Shay to rejoin because, well, Brenton went on a vacation and Alex suddenly had a death in the family. So I did have a couple of people reaching out. Is Brenton okay? Is Alex okay? And for the most part, yes, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
yes.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, because you went to go visit family in California. So at that point, a lot of people, I guess, assumed that you were sick or something. And no, it was because you went out on vacation.
Yes, it was. I had not seen the last time I had seen my family before this past trip a month ago was Christmas. So
yeah,
and I wanted them to meet my boyfriend. So that was long overdue.
All right, and then Alex, yeah, you kind of had the rough one because yours was a death in the family. And in fact, I kind of urged that we not do the podcast because, well, I've had deaths in the family, and you've been on board with me handling that, so I figured it was only appropriate to offer the same thing to you. So, ultimately, are you doing okay from this?
Oh yeah, I'm fine.
Okay,
I'll miss my grandma a lot because she was a wonderful woman, but I also think about the fact she lived 94 long years. You know how many experiences she had in life. Between immigrating to the U.S. from Holland to starting a family here.
Yeah.
It's incredible to think back on her long life and how much she accomplished and just how loved she was by everybody.
And to some people who are looking at it and going, well, really? It wasn't like an immediate family member? Well, as far as Alex would be concerned, it would be an immediate family member because I know this for a fact, his parents both worked full-time jobs. So you guys spent a lot of time at grandma's, and I actually spent time at their grandma's too. So that was kind of a thing for me too. So
I have fond memories of way back in preschool. Even just there were afternoons my grandma had to take care of me because my parents would both be at work. So she'd pick me up from preschool and take me home.
At that point, to me, that's close because I know that I've done it that I've been there a few times with your grandma, but like my grandma also did that kind of role for me. So like to me, that's a close family member as far as I'm concerned. But
Yeah.
let's go ahead and get into the events here. And the top story that we had to talk about, I got so many people asking for opinions on this because basically when this story broke is when I started my new job, and I actually had to go do training and everything like that. And so I kept on putting off doing a video about it, and I never got the opportunity to do it. So this is probably going to be my opportunity, and that is the Hellena Taylor Bayonetta 3 situation. So,
Oh my gosh.
this is a complex story, and I'm going to cover it as best as I possibly can, but there's been so many twists and turns on this that we kind of have to dissect them a little bit. So, without further ado, for those who didn't know, when Bayonetta 3 was starting to have major trailers and things like that, Platinum did announce that the actress who played Bayonetta, Hellena Taylor, was not going to be returning for Bayonetta 3. And I can't remember the exact reason that they gave for it, but it was something along the lines of scheduling conflicts. Just so that, you know, they could at least tell the public something, because there is, even though it's a niche fandom, there is a fandom for Bayonetta. And so at that point, they wanted to at least give the fans something. Well, literally, I want to say 1 to 2 weeks before Bayonetta 3 came out, Hellena Taylor decided to put out, I think it was 3 videos, but it might have been 4, basically explaining why she did not come back for Bayonetta 3. And long story short, basically what she was saying was that they offered her a paltry $4,000 to do the overall game as the main character, Bayonetta. And then also, they offered her the $4,000 for the whole thing, and so she didn't take it because of that. But she was also urging fans of Bayonetta to boycott the game, and basically stating that, in, like, according to her research, and I would love to know how she came to this number, that Bayonetta is a $450 million franchise. And so they should be able to afford to give their voice talent a little bit more. And this is the narrative that she kind of ran off of. Is like, this is a popular video game franchise, and she was only being offered $4,000 for the entire game. Which immediately, I don't know about you. Well, I've since talked to both of you on this, and I'm thankful that I wasn't the only one that had this, but basically raised like 6 different red flags for me watching those videos. Because I've since talked to you guys. You guys were both kind of apprehensive about what she was saying as well. Do you guys want to go over that really quick before we go any further?
Like, what our thoughts were?
Yeah, like initially when those videos came out.
Yeah. Well, since I'm already talking, I'll just go first. Initially, because I saw the news break on Twitter, and I was just listening to what she was saying. Within like the first minute of the video, I stopped watching and immediately start reading the comments, because the comments are always such a fun thing for me to read.
Yeah.
And I never engage with it, but that's besides the point. The point is that I was starting to read the comments, and it was very, very toxic, very immediate. Oh, I canceled my pre-order. Like, F Bayonetta 3. Can't believe they did that to her. Blah, 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 blah. And then I started reading actual articles because I didn't care to engage with the with the video.
Were you reading articles before Jason Schreier opened that up, or just before that?
Oh, definitely before.
Okay.
Because that's when my red flag started to come up. And my first major red flag was the fact that there is this woman who willingly violated her NDA.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that she was basically still under an NDA when she made these videos.
So NDA was violated. That incredibly large number on how how expensive this franchise is, and I don't think we ever really found out if that was an accurate number or not. Not that it matters anymore. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, like I totally get paying people what they're worth, and if this franchise really is has really made that much money, it would not make sense for them to offer just a flat rate of we're going to have you be a part of this AAA sequel, and we're only going to pay you $4,000.
Agreed,
Take it or leave it. Like it just didn't make any sense whatsoever. And then the fact that she had even made a statement and declaration like this so close to the game coming out was very odd to me as well.
Mhm.
It was out of the blue.
Yeah.
Completely out of the blue.
Alex, what was your take when these initial videos hit?
I did sympathize with her a little bit, because unfortunately I do know in reality a lot of voice actors are terribly underpaid, even on
They are.
even on generally high profile franchises. They can be kind of shortchanged. It's not always the case. Depends a lot. There's a lot of different factors to it.
Mhm.
And considering this came right off of Mob Psycho's kind of little controversy, totally different circumstances with that, but kind of similar.
Yes, I think I know that. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I did feel just a little for her. I totally wasn't on the hate train there. I thought, it sucks. She's getting shortchanged, but maybe she needs to pick up a few more gigs in the meantime if she's worried about a low payment.
Yes.
The thing that really the thing that didn't make me like her that much, though, was when she's kind of talk trash about her replacement. She's, she kind of backhanded. The way she kind of backhanded sort of says, oh, I understand she's doing it to take a job, but she has no right, quote unquote, to...
She has no right to sign anything for Bayonetta. She has no right to...
Character.
The
character can't sign merchandise. She's not Bayonetta, I'm Bayonetta. That, to me, is where she stepped over the line, and therefore...
Yes. Like, okay. And that makes about as much sense as Vic Mignogna coming out and saying Johnny Young Bosch can't sign anything as Broly, which is equally bullshit. So
those actors change all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And the funniest thing is, like, with main characters, you have 3 actors technically cast for it, because you have the main actor, but then you also have understudies just in case the actor gets sick. And we don't throw shit at the understudies because the other person got sick, right?
And she has her, plus there's the Japanese counterpart, the Japanese voice to Bayonetta. So you're gonna say the Japanese voice is not the real voice?
Right. So I'll tell you guys right here and now, I had about 6 red flags that went up for me with these videos. And you've actually kind of brought up a lot of them. One of which was, I have no problem saying that, yes, voice actors are horrifically underpaid in the industry. I've seen at least a little bit of the numbers for both the video game and the anime, and a little bit of like the US animation industry. And the US animation industry is a little bit better off, but not by much. And so I looked at that and went, well, that does seem like really cheap. And so I immediately that made me go off and go, nah, she was a main character. There's definitely information that I don't think she's disclosing in that regard. The other thing that came off, as you guys pointed out, she was under NDA. She still could not talk about this. And so at that point, I was just going to go ahead and ask this question, even though it's an easy answer. Why are you doing this now? Because it was literally like a week or 2 before the game comes out. And obviously that's the easy answer. But to me, it's just like, okay, why, like, if you're being open and transparent, why wouldn't you talk about this a month or 2 after they announced that Jennifer Hale was going to be taking over? And again, it's an easy answer. She wanted to be able to do this because Bayonetta 3 was just barely coming out. And so she wanted to be able to hop on that hype train. Another one that I have no problem admitting is I always get a little worried when this happens in an acting regard when you immediately start spouting off where you were trained. Because basically, I get that a lot of people can do this under the premise of that they want to be open and transparent about their skills, but in acting, it isn't necessarily that, especially when it comes to the British acting schools. You tend to want to show that for clout, especially when she mentioned that she trained under the legend, and I can't remember his name, but immediately that was a red flag to me, because I'm just like, why? If you're going to be open and transparent, I get that you would want to mention that you have been classically trained, but why would you go into such detail about where you were trained? And also the other big one I have no problem admitting was Bayonetta is a $450 million franchise. No, it's not.
Oh, so you actually found out the accurate number.
There isn't really an accurate number, Brenton, but I can tell you the only way that she could have gotten those numbers is if she had taken like every single release of Bayonetta and added their totals together.
Yeah, maybe cumulative, but
Okay.
That's the only way that number would come. And I still argue that it wouldn't be 400. It might be less than that, but that's the only way that she could have gotten that, because like, as much as we don't want to admit this, Brenton, like, we're both fans of Bayonetta. Bayonetta is not a mainstream franchise. It's not Zelda.
It's very niche, and I think it's also very important to communicate that after Bayonetta had released and Platinum was working on Bayonetta 2, Sega was not going to publish it. And if it wasn't for Nintendo, we would have never gotten Bayonetta 2.
And I'm sorry, but like a $450 million franchise, like, when we're talking numbers like that, we're not talking about a studio floundering and having to try and find support from companies like Nintendo. And so at that point, I could already tell you that was a red flag. And even under the Nintendo banner and the exclusivity that Bayonetta has had, it definitely hasn't earned that much. Bayonetta 2 did well on the Wii U. I think ultimately it did a little better on the Switch. When it was reinvested there, and I know that when they did the re-release of Bayonetta 1 on Switch, it did fairly well. But we're not talking gangbuster numbers. It's like, when we're talking 450 million, we're talking Grand Theft Auto, we're talking Mario, we're talking Zelda, Pokemon. Those are those kinds of franchises.
Pokemon's $1 billion franchise, by the way.
But you get what I mean on that. Like, we're talking big franchise.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that in, because I did try to look around, see if I could find anything. I couldn't find any definitive numbers. But
yeah.
By the looks of
I don't even think Schreier found definitive numbers.
Right. A few, each version, both 1 and 2, have moved, roughly over 100,000 copies each. The Switch has done well over 1 million now.
Yeah.
But as of December last year. So, yeah, I don't see this being particularly a super high 400 mil.
Yeah, no, not at all.
I don't know for sure. It seems kind of plausible, but I don't think that's a huge amount for a
and this is going to sound like sacrilege to Brenton, but I'm just going to go ahead and say this. If Bayonetta did better numbers than Devil May Cry, I would be very surprised.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Because Devil May Cry is way more noticeable, and it's basically the same people that are working on Devil May Cry and Bayonetta. And Bayonetta has always been the more niche franchise there. Primarily because, you have Capcom backing Devil May Cry.
Yeah, a bit more perspective. The first Bayonetta game, it did well, but it still was kind of considered an underperformance.
Yeah, it was an underperformer on PS3, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So but let's go ahead and get into so then Jason Schreier enters this. Jason Schreier, for those who don't know who he is currently an editor for Bloomberg, but he has always been a games journalist for like the past, I want to say 5-10 years. He's done games journalism. He has a lot of those connections. And he basically admitted he had been approached by representatives of Platinum Games after the Hellena Taylor videos came up, and significantly more information was being given about this situation that even now, like, I don't think Platinum has confirmed everything because it's in the contracts. They can't do that. But here's the contrast here that we now have to work with. Hellena Taylor was offered 4 to 5 sessions. Primarily, it was going to be 4, but they were more than likely going to do a 5th one, where she would be working for 4 hours, and she would be earning $4,000 per session. Yeah. So ultimately, $1,000 an hour.
Yeah, which is essentially SAG scale right there.
Yeah, no, that's appropriate. And so at that point, it's not 4,000 total. It would end up to be a minimum of $20,000 that she would be offered, which makes a lot more sense considering she's a main character. And I believe I wasn't able to confirm this, but I believe she was also playing the other character, Rose, in this game, who was, I guess, going to be like the new Bayonetta or something like that. I don't know. I haven't played the game, but at that point, they were offering her significantly more. And then she responded by basically asking for, and we never got the exact number, but it was a 6-figure sum. And she wanted to have royalties on game sales. Okay, let me give you a little bit of inside baseball here, people. The designers of the game don't even get royalties on game sales. It doesn't happen. The company gets those royalties. And frankly, I would love to have voice actors paid more in the industry. I absolutely would. But if it came down to it, like who deserves to get royalties on the game, I'm going to be the asshole here and say it's the designers that deserve the royalties first, not the voice actors. The voice actors are not there for a majority of that development time. Sorry, Alex, what?
Oh, yeah, I'm just saying, I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, it has to be the developers first. They were the ones that have been working tirelessly on this. Mm-hmm. You brought, compared to Hellena Taylor's schedule, Helena's being brought in for 4 to 5 days, maybe an additional day of like additional recording. They're not working tirelessly on this. They're not working 16-hour days. So if anybody was going to be getting royalties on the game sales, it should be the actual fucking employees. And that might be upsetting to some people, but that's just the way it's going to work. Like the flat rate, you can easily work that into your schedule, especially since, as you kind of, I think it was Brinton that kind of pointed this out, like voice actors are working around the clock roughly. Like they're taking projects numerous times of the year, plus they're going to cons, which is an additional source of revenue for them to be able to go and sign autographs and things like that. And Hellena just basically made it sound like she wasn't doing any of that. She wasn't getting other jobs. She was, I guess, working for free on all the other voice acting jobs that she was doing. And then she was definitely not doing the con circuit.
Yeah.
So she responded with that, and Platinum basically said, yeah, this is not going to work. And so ultimately we're going to go in a different direction. But then later, and I guess this is what she was referring to with the paltry 4,000, was that they were going to fit in a cameo for her and be able to at least pay homage to her. And that would have been one recording session. So that would have been $4,000. And that's where she was getting the the insulting $4,000 that she referred to. So now that we have that additional information, what happened with you guys' opinions on this?
You go first, Alex.
Well, I don't think I heard about the cameo part, but when I heard about, like, yeah, she was probably making the whole, like, I'm only going to get one flat rate of $4,000, that was when I already, like, yeah, I should have known she was probably talking at her ass.
Yes. Yeah, and on top of that, the other thing that I also didn't point out that also kind of irked me with the initial videos was that she wasn't, like, when she was saying to boycott this game, she wasn't saying, like, go get a refund on your game. She was saying instead, go take that money and donate it to charity. Now, I'm not knocking donating it to charity, but gamers are all living on very tight budgets. Why wouldn't you just say, go get your money back? Like if they want to donate to charity, that's their right, and they have to be able to do that. But you specifically stated, go and donate to charity. Why wouldn't you just say, go and keep that money for yourself because you probably need it, kind of thing? And so that immediately also became like a big thorn in my craw when I found out that she was fibbing about her about the offered money. Because it's just like, this is not a charity thing anymore. This is a money thing. She's just mad that she's not getting the 6 figures that she wanted, kind of thing. But sorry, Alex, I interrupted.
No, I think that's all I had to say on the matter.
Yep. Brenton, what happened when you saw the Jason Schreier opening a whole new hole on this, as it were?
Well, Adam, you're actually the one who brought it to my attention. And after I read the material you gave me, our conversation was like straight to the point. It was like, I knew there was something, like I knew there was a bigger picture to this. Yeah. I knew there was a bigger story.
Because I specifically brought to you that like I was getting, because I got flack on Twitter for basically saying that I was waiting for more information. Because there's just way too much of this that seems fishy, and I remember having that conversation with you, and feeling what's the word I'm looking for? Feeling some mutual respect here because you kind of did the same thing.
Yeah, I was just like there is a bigger picture to this that we do not have, like that we do not know, and so when that eventually comes to light, because the way that she went about this was so disrespectful and inappropriate that I knew somebody was going to be given permission to say something.
Especially in regards to Jennifer Hale. Holy shit. She threw, like, I can only imagine the amount of shade that was thrown at both. Now, granted, Kamiya kind of deserved it with how he phrased it, but I think it's primarily because he's not as good at English as like Kojima is. So
he's also known to be kind of an asshole.
He's one of those developers that is kind of an ass. And so at that point, like some of that is deserved, not all of it. Absolutely not all of it. But Jennifer Hale was getting like, I'm pretty sure she got mailed chicken heads in her mail because of what Hellena Taylor was saying. And holy crap, that was bull crap.
Well, yeah, because what she did, like, essentially caused a completely innocent person in this matter to get all manner of threats thrown in their direction, and it's like, whoa, that's super not cool. No, especially since you're not telling the truth.
Exactly, and that was the biggest problem there.
You are lying. So when I read everything, and I just sat there, and I don't remember exactly what I said to you, but I'm pretty sure it was something around the whole idea of like, we were right.
Yeah,
I'm glad I withhold my thoughts and opinions on this until the news came to light. And for everybody out there who essentially was saying, wow, like she's pretty much on the verge of like getting evicted. It's like, well, yeah, she is. Yeah,
she was contemplating suicide because of the paltry $4,000.
Like, this is like it was really, really, really pathetic and disgraceful. And so I just sit here and it's like, okay, for all those who are saying that voice actors are underpaid and how is she going to be able to pay her rent? Like, yeah, I agree with that with other very talented people.
But she's been doing this for a while. She never planned on having like a bad year. Like bad years happen.
I just sit here now and I don't have any remorse for this woman. No. If she thinks that she is going to get any sort of big deal after this, like she will be making some of the funniest jokes on the face of the planet. I wouldn't hire her.
No, she's
after this.
She's basically become the butt of everybody's joke in the industry right now. I would be very surprised if she got additional video game work after this. I would also not be surprised if eventually, because of her violating NDA, that there is some kind of court case that goes forward with this, where Platinum will be seeking some kind of damage recompense because of her violating NDA. I wouldn't be surprised at that.
There's also defamation here.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And actually, I've gotten a little bit of crap on Twitter because basically, as soon as this came out, I said, and I quote, it looks like Twitter owes Jennifer Hale and Hideki Kamiya an apology. Because whether or not you like how Hideki Kamiya phrased that, everybody focused on the last part of it, where just like, I'm the overlord of you all. They didn't focus on the beginning where he said she wasn't being truthful. And so at that point, I had no problem coming out to people and saying, you owe both Jennifer Hale an apology as well as Hideki Kamiya. And I also like the fact that when Platinum officially made an announcement in this regard, after Jason Schreier opened things up, they basically focused things on, we stand with Jennifer Hale because she's done the work for us, kind of thing. And that was exactly what Platinum needed to do. They needed to, like, I'm not saying that they were getting things off of themselves, but they ultimately were trying to fix the immediate problem, which was not for their game, because pre-orders, the spoiler alert here, pre-orders didn't go down that much. In fact, they went up by more. So at that point, Platinum was fine, and they immediately said, no, don't worry about us, but stop this bullshit with Jennifer Hale, because she did the work for us, and she's not part of all this drama. Which I think, again, is exactly what Platinum should have done on this. Now, as kind of a wrap-up to this story, Hellena Taylor has made additional videos and basically stood by what she has said, because she basically openly admitted that the 4,000 she was referring to was the cameo role that they were going to offer her. And that was the one that she in turn wrote a letter to Hideki Kamiya in Japanese to be able to say, like, what do you think I'm worth? Which is where a lot of this stemmed from, was the cameo role, not the initial one. So at that point, she's made her announcement, her additional statements on that, but they really haven't affected things. In fact, the way that I understand it, Bayonetta 3 sales went up a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit, because of this whole situation. So good on Bayonetta 3, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm going to be very interested to see what Jennifer Hale brings to that role. I don't know if she has the exact voice to be able to pull off Bayonetta, but I'm at least willing to give that shot, because Hellena Taylor, you screwed the pooch on this one. I have no problem saying it, which is really sad too, because this is a discussion that does need to be had. I do think that voice actors should be paid more. I think game developers should be paid more in this industry. A lot of that money goes towards the companies, and more importantly, the greedy ass CEOs that basically just hoard the money for themselves. So what's really sad about this whole situation, maybe you guys agree with me, maybe not, but this was a discussion worth having, and it immediately got clouded by the fact that Hellena had her own freaking agenda in this whole thing, and so now we can't have the conversation because she screwed the pooch.
Mm.
That's the part that's ultimately the thing that pisses me off about this whole thing.
I think she really could have just said, I wanted to come back, but I wanted more money.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want to pay out what I wanted, so I just decided to move on.
And that would have been the way to do it.
Yeah, I think some people might have still disagreed with her about that, but I think a lot of people would have been okay with that. Just so you wanted to be paid a little more, no, and you just decided to leave. That's fine.
Well, and primarily, go ahead, Brinson.
Oh, I was gonna agree with Alex. That would have been my reaction, like, oh, good for you. Like, voice actors don't get paid enough. Good for you for, like, standing your ground, being assertive. Unfortunately, you didn't get what you want, but at least you're being a pioneer and
exactly
paving the way for yourself and other voice actors to be paid what you deserve.
But unfortunately,
you.
the way that
But-
she went about it, because she hid the 15,000, it's just we can't have that conversation now because she decided to frame things the way that she wanted.
Exactly. Now the conversation is more, okay, that was a dumb thing to do. Like,
Yeah.
Like, what is your problem?
Yeah, I actually even got to see like an interview with Vic Mignogna where they brought up this whole situation to him because he hadn't heard about any of this. And he basically came out and said, I already knew this for a fact, but he's like, yeah, I mean, for as good as Dragon Ball Super Broly did, you guys would be very surprised at how much I actually got for doing that movie. And so at that point, he was just sad that, you know, this was the conversation that we could have had if you'd just been open and transparent about the fact that you were offered more than you were willing enough to admit. And I tend to agree with him on this one. Is like, this is a conversation that needed to be had, and now we can't have it. So hopefully the next voice actor that tries to do this will learn from Hellena Taylor and not make the same mistakes she did. But with that being said, let's go ahead and move on into the next story here, because I think we pretty much have this covered. This technically is a story from all the way back in, I want to say August, wasn't it, Alex? The initial death was reported in August, but now we're getting additional information for it. For those who don't know what we're talking about, the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh, Kazuki Takahashi, was unfortunately found dead, or I can't remember. Did they find his body?
Yeah, they found his body.
They found his body. He was found dead, and there was a lot of questions and controversy based around that because there were some stories that were actually reporting that he might have gone out there to commit suicide, which thankfully that wasn't the case. But also a lot of people, if I remember correctly, Alex, a lot of people were reporting it was just an accident gone, like it was just a fun trip, a fun snorkeling trip gone horribly wrong kind of thing, like a horrible tragic accident. Turns out it was actually a lot more than that because Kazuki Takahashi is a fucking hero. Because he basically saw, well, I can't remember the exact events here, but there was initially 2 women out there that were drowning out in the ocean, and a U.S. military man tried to go out and save them, wasn't really able to. And then that's when Takahashi came into the frame. Like, he tried to save them and unfortunately got caught in the rip current while trying to save them and was unfortunately killed. And thankfully, the 3, I think it was a mother and a daughter, and then there was also the army man, they were saved ultimately, but he was not. And so that's when they found Kazuki Takahashi's body, and now because the army man has come out and explained it, we now know that he basically died trying to save these people and get them to safety.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just, it's still effed up because I'm a lover of Yu-Gi-Oh, and I'm thankful that at least the suicide rumor was quelled. Because this guy was successful, and you never want to consider like a creator like him taking their own life because of success or anything like that. So I'm very happy that that wasn't the case, but still, you forget that there are moments like this where heroes can go out there and still forfeit their lives in order to save the people that they're trying to save. No other thoughts from you guys?
I just felt like it warranted a little moment of silence for
okay. Well,
that, you know.
Yeah, that's my thoughts too.
It's a sad but quite amazing story that he just, with that little regard for himself, he just ran out to try and help somebody else. And
I mean, he basically did what Yugi would have done. That's the fun. That's the interesting part about this. Or even, you know, for those who don't like Kaiba would have done that. If it was Mokuba. He would have done it. But yeah, it's really sad that this is ultimately how things went. But I'm at least thankful that now we can put the rumors aside and actually honor Takahashi's legacy, which is the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise. And even though, correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, I believe that Yu-Gi-Oh's in dormancy right now, isn't it? Like, the card game is still selling, but there hasn't been a new series since, what was the last one? Brains? I think it's gone into dormancy. Because they just don't have any additional ideas at this point. But, I mean, at the very least, people can go back and watch, like, classic Yu-Gi-Oh! In honor of Takahashi.
Yeah. So there was a new Yu-Gi-Oh series in spring this year, back in April, called Yu-Gi-Oh Rush. Yu-Gi-Oh
Oh,
Go
okay.
Rush.
All right, so
yeah, it sounds like they're still making anime from it.
they're still trying to find card games on various other things, including card games on motorcycles. I actually am also very happy that after we got the initial report of what actually happened, people like Little Karibo came out and once again kind of paid homage to Takahashi's legacy, especially Little Karibo, because Yu-Gi-Oh is basically what made Little Karibo. Just like he did he created the abridged genre because of Yu-Gi-Oh. So at that point, I liked being able to see people like him, as well as is it Eric Stewart? Yeah, Eric Stewart, who plays Kaiba. He once again pulled out his picture of a Blue Eyes jersey that he made that Takahashi loved. It's stuff like that just makes this all the sadder. In fact, because of this, as I was telling Alex, I've been watching nothing but Yu-Gi-Oh when I get home from work, because I just, like, as soon as I heard all that, I'm like, I need to go watch Yu-Gi-Oh. Like, I know its plot is stupid, but like, this guy has made a good portion of my life. So at that point, I need to go pay my respect. And in fact, the most that I've gone back and watched a lot of the classic duels that I like, but I've also been messing around in Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds again. Yes, I've been watching card games on motorcycles. And yes, guys, it is a silly concept. But what's actually kind of funny is once you get past the card games on motorcycles is that 5Ds is actually a very serious series within it. The best way I know how to explain it is, like I was telling Alex, is if people watch the Waking the Dragons arc that they did for the original Yu-Gi-Oh! It's very much like that, where it's very serious. And I know a lot of people throw a lot of shade at Waking the Dragons, especially with the change in voice actress for My Valentine. But, like, I actually like the arc. I think that some of the most vicious and hilarious duels happened in that arc, and 5Ds just reminds me of nothing but that. Brenton, any thoughts on this?
The man was a legend, and he went out like one.
Oh, he went out like fucking legend, man. And I have no problem. Like, I've even bounced this idea to you guys. Like, I really do want to pay respect to the man because of what he did. And I've almost thought about, like, either doing a Geek News movie night where we watch any of the Yu-Gi-Oh movies, or like a Geek News anime night where we watch through, like, an arc of Yu-Gi-Oh. Something needs to be done. Something needs to be done for it.
Yeah, I would love to revisit Duelist Kingdom. It's been a very long time since I watched Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And what's better is that we wouldn't get the edited Duelist Kingdom that we got on Kids WB, because they edited the Weevil Underwood and Panic duels, and now we have the full episodes.
Oh, cool.
So now you have those, and yeah. Look, I get good music came from those, but at the same time, I even don't have a problem, because I think he only did one of the movies, but like doing a Little Karibo of the Bonds Beyond Time, where my plan is great. You guys don't understand. My plan is great. I don't have a problem doing that either, but I feel like Kazuki Takahashi's sacrifice needs to be honored at this point. He's gone above and beyond as far as I'm concerned. What do you think about that, Brenton?
Yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, we'll figure something out, but ultimately it might not happen until next year. But I definitely want to do this, even if we go back to watch Duelist Kingdom, or we go and watch one of the really corny movies. I really don't care, because Yu-Gi-Oh is just, it's laughable. I've made fun of it on so many Let's Plays, and I'll continue to do so. But now that we know that Takahashi's legacy is forever cemented as being a freaking hero, I want to be able to do that. So moving on into the next story that we have, this one I had to bring up to Alex, because Alex, you and I just barely watched the original Alien. And I think we were both in agreement we'll probably go further. I don't know when, but we will. But it turns out, I didn't know this, but a few years ago, John Carpenter of John Carpenter's The Thing actually did petition to get a recent horror franchise, which is the Dead Space franchise. And the article that we're talking about is actually him reaffirming that he wants to make a Dead Space film. But I wanted to at least get a discussion on this because, like, you know of John Carpenter's legacy, Alex. Mm-hmm. The only thing I don't think you really know is Dead Space, which actually, because of Dead Space, is ultimately what made me want to go see Alien. Because now I get why Alien was such a frightening experience for people when you're stuck in a spaceship and everything wants to kill you. And so the concept of John Carpenter saying that he wants to do a Dead Space movie, how do you feel about that, Alex?
Well, I know nothing of Dead Space, but if it's like the way you're describing to me now, it sounds pretty befitting for a man who really cut his teeth in horror films. Like John Carpenter, horror and sci-fi.
You and I actually might need to do a Dead Space playthrough, because I actually think that you would love the franchise. Basically, you play an engineer who gets onto a derelict spaceship that has been overrun with, I guess you could call them zombies, but they're basically zombies meets xenomorphs. Because they actually evolve and continue to keep coming at you despite the fact that you kill. In fact, one of the emphasis there is, like, you know, with a typical zombie movie, you shoot them in the head, right?
Right.
You can't do that with these things. You basically have to disembody them, because even if you take their head out, they would still start coming at you again. So you have to, like, take out their limbs, because they'll constantly regrow limbs to keep coming at you. And so putting that in the hands of somebody like John Carpenter is, I have no problem saying this, is fucking frightening to me. Mm-hmm. Because that would just, like, I don't know if I'd actually be able to sleep after that. Brenton, what do you think about John Carpenter making a Dead Space film? I don't know. Are you a John Carpenter fan at all?
I don't think but I'm so bad at, like, what person made what film. Name some films that they've made.
So obviously John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh, I've never seen that.
So you have that. You have Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh, I've seen that.
That's John Carpenter.
Oh, okay. Sorry, just a couple more movies, because that's not enough for me to go off of.
Halloween, Escape from New York, Christine.
Escape from New York. Yeah, is Escape from LA his as well?
I think so. Let me double check on that.
I kind of need to check on that as well. But, like, he's done a lot of action and horror films. I don't think he's really stepped into any other major genres, has he?
Well, Escape from New York is sci-fi and action, so.
Well, yeah, so that'd be action.
And yes, Escape from LA is also his.
Escape from LA, They Live is also his. The 1988 one that stars Roddy Piper is his. Vampires in 1998. He has most of the Halloween films are his, aren't they?
Only 1, 2, and the more recent the more recent ones are his.
The 2022 one his?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So at that point, those are some of the movies. Are any of them sticking out to you, Brenton?
There were a few that did. So if he wants to take on Dead Space, I think that he would be a really good pick to do so.
Have you played Dead Space?
I've watched people play Dead Space. It is like, I think it's very well put together. Like, it's very well done. I personally haven't played it myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I am interested in playing this reboot.
Yeah.
Given time and money.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm actually invested in the remake too. So me and Andrea have been streaming. We streamed the original Dead Space a couple of years ago, and then this year we did Dead Space 2 in honor of the remake.
Beautiful.
So at that, and Dead Space 2 is considered to be like the best of the original games, because where Dead Space 1 has an emphasis on an action game, Dead Space 2 actually went and tried to make like a psychological horror kind of game. So at that, like, and I can honestly tell you guys, Dead Space 2 is fucking frightening compared to Dead Space 1. So having John Carpenter being able to take this franchise on is both exciting as well as very, very horrifying to me, because I'm guaranteeing you, because, you know, we're talking about the guy who made John Carpenter's The Thing. And so at that point, he's probably going to have the same vibe there. I'm probably not watching this at a movie theater. I'm just saying, guys, right here now, I'm probably not watching this at a movie theater. There's no way you're going to get me to watch this in a dark room. It's not happening. But the other one that you ought to look into, Brenton, is, have you heard of the Callisto Protocol?
I have heard of the Callisto Protocol.
So the Callisto Protocol is actually made by the original creators of Dead Space.
Oh.
So they're not being brought on for the remake. They actually wanted to re-envision it, and the trailer actually looks like space zombies, but it looks really good. You ought to check it out and see what you think.
Well, I have, and it's extremely intriguing. Again, time and money.
Exactly. Well, no, I get it. We're all a bunch of old farts that have to pay for budgets and things like that. Even Alex is that, right?
Yep.
Don't you dare tell us you're richer than us, damn it.
I'm not richer than you.
So with that, I think we pretty much covered this one, so that we actually need to get to the next story, which is more horror games. Yay! But actually a good thing, because Silent Hill fans, rejoice! You finally got news! Yeah, so we had the Silent Hill transmission event happen, and we got 4 games and a movie announced from that. Holy crap, Silent Hill fans, you guys have a bunch of content coming your way. So let me go over these really quick. So we've talked about this for a while, and so this was not a big surprise to people, but the long-awaited Silent Hill 2 remake is being worked on, and Konami is overseeing it. And the way I understand it, because I'm new to the Silent Hill franchise, so Brenton, if you know more, feel free to step in. But go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, my engagement with it is pretty small.
Okay. So
I know Resident Evil better than I know Silent Hill.
I'm kind of the same way. Like I at a very early age, my brother from another mother had played it and basically told me that I would not handle Silent Hill well at that time. And I've since played the first game. But from what I have been told by Silent Hill fans, 2 is the most beloved because of the fact that it basically showcases Silent Hill as not just a horror game, because you have to consider that the place of Silent Hill is like a weird entity in this franchise, and it basically comes out of various emotions and represents them. So in the case of Silent Hill 1 and 3, which are technically connected, that's where it is like a horror kind of thing and devil worshipping and all that stuff. But for Silent Hill 2, it's actually got a huge emphasis on depression and even suicidal thoughts and things like that.
Oh no, okay. I actually remember Silent Hill 2 now. I remember playing a demo when I was a teenager, back when GameStop was in the Southtown Mall.
Yep.
And then I remember watching, I think I watched a Let's Play years later. Oh man, like at least 5+ years later, because I was really curious of what was going to happen. And even though I was scared out of my mind the entire time, it was really, really good.
Yes, from what I've been told, because I haven't played Silent Hill 2, I've only played the first one. I'm like, me and Romney were actually considering doing Silent Hill 2, just because he had a huge love for it, but he wanted to do it on the original PS2 because the PS3 collection screwed it up by basically making everything brighter, so it wrecks the atmosphere of Silent Hill 2.
Right.
So at that point, like we were considering doing it, but all I've ever seen is like analysis videos on how Silent Hill 2 covers depression. So I don't know anything about this game. So I'm actually really excited to see where it goes, especially since I know for a fact that this not only brought back composer Akira Yamaoka, which he's probably like the one veteran that they could bring back from Team Silent that would come back, but they actually also are going to like put money behind this thing and get voice actors for it, because that's one of the things that Silent Hill is kind of known for, is that they basically hired some schlub in accounting to play the main character, because that's what you did back in early PlayStation days. So at that point, this will be very interesting, but we got a bunch of other games too. So the next one that I want to talk about is Silent Hill Townfall, which we don't have a whole lot of information about, aside from who is working on it, which, if people do not know Annapurna Interactive by now, you've been living under a rock to some extent. Annapurna is one of the up-and-coming indie developers right now that they've actually become kind of a third party in and of themselves. I want to say that The Outer Wilds is theirs, but I don't think that's one of their titles. Let me see if I can actually get you guys the games that they have worked on, because I know for a fact they worked on Firewatch that came out a few years ago. The Unfinished Swan is theirs. We also have The Artful Escape, Solar Ash. If anybody played the game Stray that came out earlier this year, that is from them. Open Roads, Hindsight, Thirsty Suitors, Bounty Star, I think is the one I'm thinking of that isn't The Outer Wilds. That is theirs. So you have a big indie studio that is beloved, right? Oh no, never mind. Outer Wilds is theirs. So at that point, you have a big indie studio that is now working on a beloved IP like Silent Hill.
Wow, that's honest. That's truly an honor, because a lot of these games that they've already made and published are just amazing.
Yeah, they are. Well, and this is going to be interesting because Konami hasn't, like, I get it. Konami does not have the game development team to be able to do games like Silent Hill anymore. And so now they have to branch out and actually rely on other studios. So that'll be an interesting thing, because Konami hasn't done that in a long time. So how are they going to approach that? Are they going to be like, effing dictators to Annapurna who can actually stand up to them, or are they going to like work together on it? So that's another interesting question that I have, but I have every faith that Annapurna can pull this off.
I have no doubt. I have no doubt whatsoever. I mean, I'll sit through a remake. I'll sit through some new games. I'll be terrified and angry the whole time that I did it to myself.
This would be a whole new game in the Silent Hill franchise. So
that's what I'm saying. Like, I would be willing to sit through it. I'll be mad at myself the whole time because I'm I'm openly saying this in a forum of people who very much convince me to do things that I really don't want to do sometimes.
Yes, I think Resident Evil 7's in that. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know why I don't know why I engage with the horror genre as much as I do. I despise it, and it's somehow one of the most it's one of those genres
It's one
I
of the most
engage with.
interesting stories that can be told. It's
Well,
the dumbest thing.
It's so true, and it's just move on. I'm about to get on a soapbox I don't need to get on.
Well, yeah, no, like Andrea's kind of in the same place as well. Like she never tried out, like her and Alex are virgins to survival horror up until about a few years ago when 7 came out. And so at that point, and it's funny because she has become just the most hardcore of fans over the course of 2 years. Actually, more I mean, it came out in 2017, so we're talking about 5 years now, but she has become just hardcore Resident Evil fan ever since we did that, because we played 7 together, and then we did a Draken Shadow playthrough of the original RE1, which I think at that point made you a fan, right, Alex?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I get it. Part of me doesn't want to be a fan of survival horror, but some of the best storytelling is in survival horror games. I have to acknowledge that.
Well, I don't think a lot of people know this, but it was actually me playing a survival horror game with my friend Will, who and it was playing Outlast that gave him the nerve to say, "Hey, I think you would be a really good online personality."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, really?" And then we started the Gamers. So it was actually a survival horror game that brought me to being a very low-key internet personality.
Yeah, no, the same thing kind of happened for us because of all the streams that we've ever done, the most popular that have ever happened have been survival horror games. And I think it's primarily just because Andrea, she will react to things that are happening on screen, but she definitely handles it better than me. I get jump scared still to this day in games. It just happens. And so a lot of people just kind of take that as, well, she's definitely able to handle this better than Drac because Drac is screaming like a little girl. I've got the controller.
So a lot of my reactions, and again, this is probably me putting my foot in my mouth. So here comes Brenton and Drac need to play this.
Oh yeah.
And it is I'm so good into reading behavior that I can anticipate when something's about to happen. And so the whole time I'm just hyperventilating, almost dry heaving to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, don't go, just go, don't go. Okay, just go, just progress the game, just get it over with, rub off the band-aid.
Exactly. And that happened. That happened so many times in 7 for me, but 7 was a unique animal because it took all the things that trigger me in horror and it attacked all of them. 7 was hard to get through.
Well, I played it with my ex-husband, and the whole time he was just like, Brenton, please stop talking. You're scaring me more than the game is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, a similar thing happened with it. Andrea was just kind of sitting there and enjoying, and I was cursing, and I don't want to play this game anymore, and she's like, shut up and just do it.
Oh, I was way over Resident Evil 7, and then for some odd reason I decided to sit through all of Resident Evil 8 as well. So
we actually just barely did the DLC for it too.
I'm just a glutton for punishment when it comes to horror for some stupid reason. But of course I have my boundaries and my limits. Anything involving a clown, just no, absolutely not. You cannot you cannot get me. So if there's any sort of clown horror game out there, sorry, I have a hard line. I'm not doing it.
Well, at this point, I mean, it's probably safe to say that we have somebody that can actually judge this. Alex, are we both gluttons for punishment? Is that what's happening?
I think so.
Okay. So the next game that we can get into, this is the one that me and Andrea are the most excited about. And I don't know why, because we were both horrified by this trailer. So there's going to be a new spin-off called Silent Hill F that is coming out. It is going to be set in 1960s Japan, but the biggest thing that's holding this together for a lot of people is that it's going to be written by acclaimed Japanese writer Ryukishi 07. And for those who don't know who he is, he's created visual novels like Higurashi and Umineko. I've only heard those by reputation, so I know exactly, for what I've been told about how scary they are, I get why Ryukishi has been brought in. Alex, you're the visual novel nut. Have you played either of these?
I've not played them, but I did see the Higurashi anime.
Yeah, so at that point, it totally makes sense that they're going to do this, but I have no problem saying to people, this trailer was the one that actually, like, horrified me. Just because of some of the visuals that they did with it, with because it almost had kind of like a Fatal Frame kind of look to it, with the girl slowly being taken over by like undersea wildlife or undersea plant life, and it was fucking frightening to watch this trailer. So this is the one that I get has probably some of the most hype on it, aside from the Silent Hill 2 remake. This one is going to be like I don't know if you guys watch this trailer, but I'm gonna be walking that off for a while. And then
I actually didn't see any of the trailers. I only like read about the announcements.
Yeah. The next one that we have, this one is the one that has me with red flags. So we have Silent Hill Ascension, which is going to be a project where participants around the world will control the characters in a new Silent Hill story. The way that they've explained it is it's basically going to be like a Let's Play Pokemon version of a Silent Hill story that will be live on multiple platforms. That one seems very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's going to work out. But it'll be interesting to see if they can pull it off. And then the last announcement that we do have for it, which is the film, basically Christoph Gans, who directed the first Silent Hill movie, has announced that he is going to be making a third movie, which is going to be called Return to Silent Hill. So for those who don't know, Christoph Gans did the first Silent Hill movie. He did not do Silent Hill 3D, which was supposed to be like an adaptation of the third game, but they are bringing him back for this Return to Silent Hill game, which is going to continue the story that they've told in the films, because the films are basically a different kind of storyline than the games themselves, which is, I think, by design. So that'll be very interesting to see pull off. Did either of you guys see the Silent Hill movies?
That is a negative for myself.
I've never seen them.
I didn't see it, but the only reason I didn't see it was because I saw Sean Bean is in it, and I just can't see Sean Bean die all the time. I just can't do it. Can't do it anymore. I love you, Sean Bean. I just can't see you die anymore, man. I just can't do it. I know for a fact he technically didn't die. I have to make that joke. Sean Bean dies in so many movies that he's actually gone on the record saying that he really wishes the Oscars would do a death scene category so that he could just finally win a freaking award.
I mean, why not at this point?
I mean, right? He's got, hey, when it comes to death scenes, Sean Bean's got it down. So
when you get really good at something.
Exactly. Yes. So at that point, let's go ahead and move into the next story, which is a big, exciting announcement that people wanted us to go over, which, really quick, did either of you guys see Black Adam?
No.
Okay. So have either of you seen the Easter egg that was at the end of Black Adam?
No.
Okay, so this is going to be news for both of you, because at the end of we've been teased this throughout the year, and Warner Brothers keeps coming out and saying, no, this is not happening. We don't care what The Rock says. But he's been teasing for a while that, or by he, I mean The Rock, that a certain beloved Superman was going to be returning. And it turns out in the Easter egg for Black Adam, Henry Cavill has returned as Superman. And actually, they did a video right after Black Adam debuted where he confirmed that, yes, Warner Brothers has brought him on for another Superman film. He actually will be stepping down from his role in the Netflix Witcher to come back as Superman for the, I guess it's going to be the third Man of Steel movie, even though Zack Snyder's not tied to it. So at that point, we have, actually, you know what? I think this is one of the best announcements that Warner Brothers Discovery could have possibly made, because I have a love-hate relationship with the Man of Steel film as well as Batman v Superman, because I don't like them, but I honestly believe that Henry Cavill is probably the best person that we could cast today to be Superman. And so unfortunately, he's a really great Superman that's been shoved into a bunch of bad stories for him. And so at that point, I'm glad that they're going to basically try and do it again. They're going to try and give him a worthwhile Superman story, which I think they could easily pull off. He's a very good Superman. He's a very good Clark Kent, as long as you get the right director there. What do you guys think of Henry Cavill officially returning as Superman?
Go ahead, Alex.
I think it's great. I think he's a good Superman.
I honestly think he is. He's got the build for it. He has the love. One of the things that I actually love about, even though there was a bunch of bad press that was going into Batman v Superman and everything like that, like Henry Cavill was still one of the more optimistic ones because he's a fan and he wanted to, like, where everybody was trying to aim the proverbial sights at the fans because they're just horrible people. That's why they don't like Batman v Superman. He was actually saying, like, well, no, they're just passionate about the material that you're trying to cover. And yeah, we probably could have done a better job at trying to cover that material well. Like that's a big thing to say. And I'm pretty sure Warner Brothers never liked it when he was honest and open with the fans. So this is probably a really great step in the right direction, because now he's got that reputation for being that honest and transparent. And so if they're not going to do well by Superman, like he's going to tell us that.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. I 100% appreciate it when actors are like come forward and they're like, "Oh yeah, this could have been much better." Like way
Absolutely.
better.
I mean, like, I know that him and Warner Brothers were at odds a number of times because of things that he would say, like, the fans are passionate about this stuff, and we could put that extra effort towards the Justice League film and other things like that. So the fact that he is re-signing with Warner Brothers to do a film deal tells me, at least to some extent, that he has more confidence now in their movie making process than he did then, because he's gone on the record numerous times as saying, like, he didn't really like where Zack Snyder was going. He didn't particularly like the direction that Jeff Johns was pushing the DC film universe into. And so the fact that he's willing to be signed on after all the bullcrap he had to deal with Warner Brothers tells me that Warner Brothers Discovery is probably going in a much better direction. And I know for a fact that David Zaslav was overseeing his contract, so that was a good step in the right direction.
I will admit, I actually had no idea that Henry Cavill was not going to continue being Superman, so this is news to me.
No, he had a bad falling out after the Justice League movie.
I actually had no idea. So I just learned like 2 new things of information, like all in the same minute.
There you go.
Where my heart was like, oh, followed by oh.
Yeah, he didn't have a good he didn't have a good relationship with the DC staff, and that's actually why he took on the role for The Witcher. Is because he had a rough falling out with them.
Yeah, I really enjoyed him in The Witcher, so I actually thought that he was stepping down from that role because Jason and I recently just watched Enola Holmes 2, and based on how that movie ended, and made it seem like they were setting up for a third film or starting their own Netflix series on Sherlock Holmes and Enola Holmes. So we thought he was stepping down because he was pursuing like other projects with Netflix. However, if he's, if it's a step down to come back as Superman, well, I'm completely okay with that as well.
I don't know the details, but he was basically in because I think that Enola, the Holmes movie that you're talking about, was like the last thing that he was contractually obligated to do. So at that point, like he hasn't talked bad about The Witcher or anything like that, and he's had a good relationship with Netflix. But I guess like he was shopping around, he was a free agent at that point, and Warner Brothers just gave him the better offer. So at that given moment, like, I totally understand it. I still think it goes to say a lot about where DC is currently going, because he was one of the guys that just is like, nope, not working with these guys. They don't know what they're doing. And I know that some people will be upset that Henry Cavill is not coming back to The Witcher and is being replaced by Liam Hemsworth, I think.
Yeah, people are super bad. Like,
so I mean, I feel for you, but like, this is just this is Hollywood, people. Like, this is what Henry decided to do. And frankly, I kind of agree with his decisions on it, because just the way that Superman was left, it left a lot of unfinished business. And so at that point, I think given the right director, the right writer, we could actually get a really fucking good Superman movie with Henry Cavill as the lead. And I think we could do it. And so at that point, I'm agreeing with him on this decision. I think it was the better thing to do.
Yeah.
Alex, you've been kind of quiet on this. What's your take on Henry Cavill coming back?
It's like I said, I think he's a good Superman, so I'm interested to see him come back. It's nice to see DC go back to Superman after so long. They haven't really done a solo Superman film since Man of Steel. So
no, they haven't. They've teased like Man of Steel 2 or Man of Steel 3, because I guess in DC's canon, Batman v Superman was Man of Steel 2. So they say like, oh, we'll do Man of Steel 3, but what we've heard with the shakeup over at Warner Brothers and DC is like, they are basically going through all the projects that they do not think will make them money, and they are getting rid of those, and basically in favor of doing projects that will make them that money. For example, I mean, there were technically 2 Superman movies in the making before this announcement happened, both of which would have been a black Superman, and the one that's the most controversial about it is the Ta-Nehisi Coates Superman movie that he wanted to do, where I guess the Superman would not be a Kryptonian. He would have instead gotten his power from Black Lives Matter, because that makes sense. That has been trashed. I think the other one is still going through, but the Ta-Nehisi Coates one has been trashed, and now we have a Henry Cavill Superman being made. Sorry, Alex, I cut you off. What?
The one you're talking about, the Black Lives Matter Superman or whatever, I thought that was Static Shock.
They both were going to have the same kind of origin in their movies.
That's kind of confusing.
It is! It's also dumb.
Well, I mean, I get why you're saying, like, none of this makes sense, because it doesn't.
Exactly. Like, it especially doesn't make sense with Static Shock. Like, people have been waiting a long-ass time to get a Static Shock film because of the popularity of the WB series, and they immediately don't want to do like I think it was actually called the Big Bang origin that they did in the series, which is what people know. Instead, you want to have him get his power from Black Lives Matter? What the fuck? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But yeah, so that's technically, I believe that Static Shock film is still in the works, but I will double check on it. But that was the origin for it. So yeah, final thoughts on Henry Cavill coming back as Superman. I'm pretty sure a lot of people would like to know Brenton's point of view on Henry Cavill as Superman.
I'm not making another Batman comment.
Well, Batfleck's not involved here. No,
Yes,
no,
but
now it's
also,
Pattinson.
oh my gosh. Well, that doesn't do anything down south, if you want to
Okay.
know. Like, in that regards. I'm not saying anything, Adam. I don't need...
The days of the Bat Boner are done. Yes.
Yes, because I work for the government now, so I can't be saying things that are going to leak. That's going to leak back to my job.
I will say, like, just like from a look perspective, I have really loved the look that they've gone with Henry Cavill Superman. So I'm very interested to see if they can continue that. And Henry Cavill is probably, like, granted, I'm coming late to the Superman films in a lot of ways. So, like, I basically saw the Christopher Reeve films before I saw Man of Steel. So at that point, like, I am probably biased in saying this, but Henry Cavill is probably the closest that has really looked the part since Christopher Reeves. And I know that a lot of people are going to be mad at me saying, well, Brandon Routh does look like the role, but the fact that the DC TV series put him as the Atom instead, I think is actually a better cast. And so at that point, I will agree with you that, yes, Superman Returns exists. And Brandon Routh was Superman in that film, and he does look good as Superman. But the fact that you put him as the Atom, like, that's kind of my problem now, is that Brandon Routh fits so many good heroes in the DC canon that I don't like. We have Henry Cavill as Superman. Let's bring Brandon Routh in, but let's bring him in as somebody else. That's kind of my deal. And so at that point, I'm totally on board with both of those. But Henry Cavill as Superman, that was a good decision as far as DC is concerned. Let's go ahead and get into the last story that we have, and this one also got a lot of hype that we needed to talk about this. So, Alex, I hear it's a rumor. You might have to confirm or deny this, that you are a fan of the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episodes.
Classic ones, at least.
Okay, so at that point, did you watch the most recent Treehouse of Horror?
I did not, but I've heard about it. Yeah.
Have you since watched the clip?
Yeah, I saw the clip.
Okay, so in case, Brenton, did you watch the recent Treehouse of Horror?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, so The Simpsons does Halloween episodes.
I would hope they do. They've been on the air for a while.
Yeah. Well, 30 plus seasons. Geez, aren't they coming up on 40, Alex?
No, they're still like mid-30s, I think.
Okay,
I can get that exact number for you, but continue.
Yeah. So the most recent Treehouse of Horror, in recent years, The Simpsons hasn't really done anything genre-defining or groundbreaking in a while. And this was a step in the right direction, because this Treehouse of Horror did a Death Note parody where basically putting Lisa Simpson in the role of Light Yagami, and did a I think it was like a 15 to 20 minute Death Note parody with Simpsons characters instead, and actually did like a legit anime art style to be able to pull this off. So have you seen the clips for this at all, Brinton?
You know, I did see The Simpsons drawn in an anime style. I didn't realize that was like that was actually them. Also, as a quick side note, they're currently on season 34.
Oh, Jiminy Christmas, 34 episodes, or 34 seasons.
Yeah.
So at that point, people wanted to know our opinions on this. I have seen it. It is fucking hilarious as far as I'm concerned. It is a really good parody of Death Note. And I'm a big fan of Death Note. So at that point, I was laughing the entire time. Andrea actually came in because she was like, what the hell are you laughing at? And because of me watching it and telling her that this was based on a popular anime, she now wants to watch Death Note.
Oh.
That actually is quite awesome. Death Note is a really, really good IP.
It is. Now, granted, I have not really liked anything since the anime. There is one movie I would like to see, which is the movie where L basically wins. I'd still like to see that movie. I haven't yet, but like I haven't watched like the Netflix Death Note or anything like that. But this parody,
I wouldn't bother.
This parody nailed it on everything that you can make fun of with Death Note, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, for crying out loud, I love the fact that she gets a Shinigami, and basically the Shinigami is just straight up impressed by how sadistic Lisa gets in this entire clip of basically just like everybody who wants to hurt the environment, she has no problem writing their name in the Death Note. Or I'm sorry, the Death Tome in this.
Death Tome, yeah.
And I have no problem saying I loved the L reveal in this, where it wasn't L, it was L Barto, and so it was Bart as L. That was great.
Yeah.
Especially like seeing that reveal of Bart in the classic pose of L was amazing, and I just love that it basically became like more internal conflict between Bart and Lisa. Just like, I can't even believe I'm doing this. Bravo, Simpsons. Bravo. You did a great job here.
Couple fun facts about this. First of all, I think what a real nice attention to detail is this episode, or at least this particular part of it, the Death Tome, they actually got the Korean animation studio, Dr. Movie, which also did a lot of work on Death Note.
Yeah.
It wasn't the sole producer, it was one of the contractors, but it did a lot of work, and they did the episode, the part for Death Tome, so that was a nice little attention to detail.
No, I thought that was actually a good animation decision, because I'm not knocking the people who animate The Simpsons, but for them to do a completely different style like this, it was not going to be in the cards. So I actually agree with the fact that they did that.
And another thing is, it's actually not the first time The Simpsons have done Death Note. The Simpsons comics, quite a few years ago, also did a Death Note parody.
I'd heard that, yeah. But I'd heard it wasn't as in depth as this.
Probably not quite, but still to its credit, they also drew it in a manga style. They didn't follow like the manga layout to the letter, right? They didn't like do the reverse left to right reading. They still followed. I saw a whole summation about the comic version of the Death Note that The Simpsons did. It was still a really good, faithful recreation.
It was, but correct me if I'm wrong. They did the best that they could, because back in 2008, it was still being animated, wasn't it? So we didn't actually know how the series ended or anything like that.
Yeah, I think Death Note was still pretty new to
pretty
the West,
new, yeah.
actually.
And so at that point, like the fact that they did as good as they did when the series itself wasn't even concluded, yeah, that was a good step in the right direction for the Simpsons comic to be able to do it. And it makes sense why it couldn't completely take on like all the tropes of Death Note, because Death Note wasn't completed at that point. So, and I'm laughing at the concept that now, because of this Simpsons parody, my wife, your sister, now wants to see Death Note and actually like do an episode by episode analysis of Death Note, which I think, considering what she loves about Resident Evil, like bringing things back to this, Brinton, she would love Death Note and all of the swerves that happen in Death Note.
Oh yeah, that's what kept me so intrigued. Like Death Note Death Note wasn't this story about a narcissistic, egotistic teenager thinking playing God. It was about the twists and the turns and the I'm smarter than you, and no, he's smarter than you, and the mind games and the mystery, how is this all going to end? How is this man going to be backed into a corner? Like, that is what intrigued me. That is what the story was about.
Exactly.
And it just consumed me. And so I was so glad that by the time that I had engaged with the series, it was completely printed in English. So I was able just to read it straight through, and I didn't have to wait for anything.
Yeah, the only thing that irritates me with Death Note, and it'll, when me and Andrea actually go over this, I'll explain it. But the only thing that really irritated me with Death Note was the fact that Elle died. But I will admit that, just like you said, the swerves were still there, despite the fact that Elle had died. Now you had Mello and Nier that you could follow, and they were still kind of playing that game of I'm smarter than you, Elle, or Light Yagami.
Light.
Yeah. Well, at that point he was Elle, and so at that point it became like the fight between like Light and Nier, and you still had the swerve aspect of it, so you still had that to be able to get behind. I just really, one of the things I feel like the series should have done was given Elle that proper arrest.
No, I agree. I was not very happy that Elle was defeated in the end because I didn't like Mello and Nier very much.
No,
I thought
they're good, but they're not anywhere near what Elle was.
Yeah, they were just both very annoying to me. And anytime that they came on, like they, it's time for their screen time. I was just like, I get that you need, I get that this needs to happen right now to progress plot.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see you.
Exactly. I'm not interested in you. Like, you aren't as interesting to me. Like they tried to have the traits of Elle within Mello Nier, and Mello was always like the one who ate all the chocolate bars, and they tried so hard to make it just like whenever Elle would be, postulating his theories and eating a cupcake, and it never came off the proper way. And I think primarily it's because they still acted like children, and so at that point, with Elle, you had that experience that he had since solved a bunch of cases. So at that point, like, we had more faith in what he could do, and the quirks worked. But by the time Mello and Nier came around, it was just like, oh, well, it's kids being kids. And it doesn't have that allure anymore. This is why I actually want to see that Death Note movie where Elle wins. Because, like, it's always been a regret to me that Elle never ultimately wins. And to some people who are going to say,
well, that was a movie.
Yeah, it's a Japanese only movie, and apparently it's actually where Elle arrests Light.
Okay. I'll have to look it up then.
I want to see it, but to all the people who are also going to say, well, technically Elle won in the end because they found out that Light was Kira. Yeah, but he wasn't there when it happened. So he didn't get to have that, oh, so I was right after all kind of moment. And they tried to give it at that last moment where Light is dying, and it came off as a very hollow note to me. So that's just the thing. So this will be interesting to see Andrea's take and see if she comes off with the same issues that maybe I had with the series or not. So that being said, that is technically all the stories that we have that were in the month of October. Lots of stuff happening. As far as future stuff, I have a little bit of business to sweep under the rug before we wrap this episode up. I don't know how the holidays are going to go, because now that I have a full-time job that is going to be probably one of the busier jobs to have in the holidays, like, we've been making jokes that Alex has always had like a tough job because he actually does have to work on days like Black Friday and all that. I will probably also be working on Black Friday and probably working as hard as Alex, if not more. So I don't know how the frequency of these episodes is going to turn out, but I will at least say that if we can't get episodes where the three of us can get together, I will at least give some kind of a mini cast on big stories that maybe happened during that time. But I will try very hard to be able to work out a day for us to be able to get together and talk about the stories in November if we are able to. I already know that some people want us to talk about Elon Musk and Twitter because he officially bought it. Holy shit. But technically a lot of the stuff that he did was in November, so we'll see if it happens. And ultimately I'll keep you guys as well as the panelists in the loop on whether or not we can make a November or a December episode work out. If not, we will do a discussion episode because I've gotten enough people asking for more of those with the three of us. in particular, more unpopular opinions. So maybe it's time to do unpopular opinions in gaming, and maybe we'll bring in Shay Tari for that as well. But to wrap things up for the evening, thank you guys so much for joining us on this wrap up of the month of October. We are very happy to have you guys. We're very thankful that you guys stopped to listen. If people want to be able to reach out to us to ask our opinions on specific stories that maybe we didn't cover in the month of October, Brent and Volley, how do they do that?
They can reach out to me through you, or you can reach out to me on Twitter, whatever is more convenient.
Yeah, either or. I mean, Twitter's still around, at least for the moment it is.
Yeah, I'm going to have to find a new way for people to reach out to me, because the likelihood of me sticking with Twitter is like slowly going downhill. So
kind of for me too, but it's primarily just because of the work schedule. Alex, how do people get a hold of you?
I'm on YouTube. Shadowblazer3000 is my channel. I do anime content, so follow me.
All right. And you guys can follow my channel on YouTube at Drac2326. You can check out the Let's Plays that I've done in the past, as well as the live streams that we are doing currently. I'm actually very happy that we finally finished the road to Ragnarok. I was worried there for a second, Brenton, that we were going to end at 98% because of the job. But now Andrea is caught up, has seen all the way up to God of War 2018. And so when we get a free minute, we will be taking on God of War Ragnarok. And so at that point, no spoilers. No spoilers from any of you. I will be dictator on this.
Well, congratulations, dude. You're probably going to tackle Ragnarok before I do. I mean, again, like, budget. I'll probably get Bayonetta 3 before I get Ragnarok. And the funny thing is, I'll probably get like the Harry Potter game next year before Ragnarok. So
yeah, Andrea is actually making a big push to do Hogwarts Legacy before Ragnarok because she's just that excited for it. And you know what? Considering what they've shown in the trailers, I kind of am too.
It looks really good, but of course, that is like a conversation for a super different night.
Yeah. So at that point, you guys can check out my live streams. You can also check out the podcast. In fact, if you guys want to support the podcast, the best way to do so is going to geekynro.libsyn.com, where the RSS feed is hosted, or you can go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, or Player.fm to be able to support the podcast there. And also make sure to leave us a like and a review on those, because it actually does help with the algorithms at those platforms. We definitely appreciate it. You can also check out some of the other things that we have exclusively to that, like, for example, the episode by episode analysis that me and Andrea are doing of the first season of The Mandalorian. So you guys can check that out, or you could check out Rising the Shield Hero Season 1. We also did Fruits Basket Season 3. I have a feeling we'll be doing a movie night on the Fruits Basket movie, because that definitely needs to happen. And who knows, maybe we'll bring in a certain Shadow Blazer to give his thoughts on it. Or maybe we'll exclude him. I don't know. I don't think we can exclude Alex. He'll find out, and then he'll just come in out of nowhere and just be like, no, I'm part of this discussion. So at that point, yeah, that's going to go ahead and do it for us. Thank you guys so much for continuing to join us on the podcast. We really do appreciate all the love and support that you guys have given. Hopefully we will be able to see you guys throughout the holidays. If not, happy holidays to you guys. And for myself, for Brenton, and for Alex, we will see you guys next time for the next episode of Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions.